In the summer of 1940, the police arrived at a wedding on Dante Street in Montreal. They were there for one of the guests, Giuseppe Visoki. The officers who took him away told his family that they just had to speak with him, but he would be able to come right back. He didn't. Within weeks, he was at a prisoner of war camp in Petawawa, wearing a uniform marking him as an internee, with a target on the back and the number 770. It would be another 2 years until Giuseppe came home. 2 années durant lesquelles
2
ses
years
7 enfants
while his 7
avaient besoin de
children
leur père.
needed their father.
2 années durant
2
lesquelles son
years
épouse
while his
ne savait
wife
pas
didn't know
comment
how
elle
she was
arriverait à les
going
nourrir
to feed
et à
them
les loger.
or keep a roof over
2
their
années
heads.
durant lesquelles
2
cette
years
mère
while
seule
this single
a
mother
dû tenir bon
had
sans
to
argent,
survive without
sans
money
pouvoir demander de l'aide
and
aux
without
membres de la
being able to
famille,
ask for help
puisqu'ils
from
avaient
family
peur des
members
représailles.
because they were afraid of reprisals.
Mr. Speaker, this is not the story of just one man or just one family. During the Second World War, 31,000 Italian Canadians were labeled enemy aliens and then fingerprinted, scrutinized, and forced to report to local registrars once a month. Just over 600 men were arrested and sent to internment camps, and 4 women were detained and sent to jail. They were business owners, workers, and doctors. They were fathers, daughters, and friends. When the authorities came to their door, when they were detained, there were no formal charges, no ability to defend themselves in an open and fair trial, no chance to present or rebut evidence. Yet still, they were taken away to Petawawa or to Fredericton, to Kananaskis or to Kingston. Once they arrived at the camp, there was no length of sentence. Sometimes the internment lasted a few months, sometimes it lasted years. But the impacts, those lasted a lifetime. Des réputations ont été ruinées.
Reputations were
Des
ruined.
entreprises ont été
Businesses
démantelées.
were shut down.
Des familles se sont retrouvées sans
Families
moyen
were
de
left
subsistance.
with no
Des
livelihood.
écoles des enfants ont été rejetés par
Children
leurs
were
amis.
rejected by their
retirer de
friends
l'école.
or pulled out of school.
Ces histoires, à cause
These
de la
stories,
honte et de la
out of
peur,
shame and
sont
fear,
passées sous silence
have gone untold
pendant
for
trop
too
longtemps.
long.
Pour de trop nombreuses
For too many
générations,
generations,
cette injustice
this
a été
injustice
lourde à
has
porter.
been a heavy burden.
When, on June 10, 1940, this House of Commons declared war on Mussolini's fascist regime in Italy, Canada did not also have to declare war on Italian Canadians. To stand up to the Italian regime that had sided with Nazi Germany, that was right. But to scapegoat law-abiding Italian citizens, that was wrong. Monsieur le Président,
Mr.
alors
Speaker,
qu'on demandait aux Canadiens de s'unir,
as Canadians were
pour
being
soutenir
asked to come
l'effort de guerre,
together to support the
alors
war
qu'on
effort,
rappelait aux gens de
as
faire
people were
leur
being
part,
reminded to do their part,
certains étaient traités
some were
comme
being
des
treated
ennemis,
as
même
enemies,
s'ils n'avaient commis
even though they
aucun
had
crime.
committed no crime.
La politique d'internement,
The internment
était
policy
injuste.
was unjust.
elle allait à l'encontre des valeurs
It
qu'on
went
était
against
parti
the
défendre à
values
la guerre.
that we had gone to war to
Elle
defend.
allait à l'encontre des valeurs
It went
que les
against the values
Italo-Canadiens
that Italian
s'enrôleraient
Canadians
pour protéger,
had enlisted to
malgré le fait
protect,
que des membres de
despite
leur
the fact that
famille
members
avaient été
of their
internés
family
dans ces
had been interned in camps.
Elle allait à l'encontre des
And it
valeurs
went
qui
against
faisaient
the
la force de notre
values
pays,
that were the strength of
comme
our
l'équité,
country, like fairness,
l'application
due
régulière de la
process,
loi et
quality
l'égalité
under
dans
the
le
law,
système de justice.
values
Des
that would
valeurs
later be
qui allaient
enshrined
plus tard être
in our
inscrites
charter.
dans notre charte. La façon dont le gouvernement a traité
The way
les
that Italian Canadians were
Italo-Canadiens
treated by the
était
government was
inacceptable.
unacceptable,
Et ce traitement
and
a
that
causé
treatment
de
caused
réels
real
préjudices.
harm.
Et pas seulement aux hommes
And not
et aux
only
femmes
to the
qui ont
men and
été
women who were interned
internés et
and
leurs
to their
familles,
families,
mais aussi aux
but also
générations
to the
qui ont vécu avec
generations
cet
who have
héritage
lived with
de
that legacy
discrimination.
of discrimination.
Il est temps de faire
It is time
amende
to
honorable.
make amends.
Mr. Speaker, Signor Presidente, I rise in this House today to issue an official apology on behalf of Italian Canadians, on behalf of the Government of Canada, for the internment of Italian Canadians during the Second World War. To the men and women who were taken to prisoner of war camps or jail without charge, people who are no longer with us to hear this apology. To the tens of thousands of innocent Italian Canadians who were labeled enemy aliens. To the children and grandchildren who have carried a past generation's shame and hurt, and to their community, a community that has given so much to our country, we are sorry. Chiediamo scusa. À tous ceux qui ont été touchés par ce chapitre de
To all
notre
those who
histoire,
were affected by this chapter in our history, we are sorry.
votre famille et votre communauté
Your families
ne
and your
méritaient pas
communities
cette injustice.
did not deserve this
Et malgré
injustice.
tout, malgré
And
ce
despite
moment
everything,
sobre,
despite that dark
continuez
time,
de
you
regarder vers
continue
l'avant.
to look ahead.
I've heard your stories. We have heard your stories. How once your parent or grandparent was released, they worked hard to give back to their country, despite how its government had treated them. Every thriving business these men and women rebuilt, or local charity they started, was a testament to their commitment to Canada. Everyone who became a service member in the Canadian Armed Forces or a representative in government was an example of their dedication to their fellow citizens. What better way to show that the injustice done to them had been a mistake? What better way to prove that they loved the country they had chosen to call home? It would have been so easy to turn their backs on Canada. Instead, they put their backs into building it. That is their legacy, and it is a legacy that lives on today. To everyone who has had the courage to speak up about this painful chapter in our history, to people like Anita, who told me about how her father never stopped loving this country, or Zita and her daughter, who spoke about their family's resilience. You honor your father or grandfather and the kind of person he taught you to be. Aux membres de mon propre caucus,
To the members
qui
of
ont
my
travaillé
own
sans
caucus,
relâche
who have worked
pour que
tirelessly
justice
to
soit
bring
rendue à la
justice
communauté
to the Italian
italo-canadienne,
Canadian
et
community,
aux organisations
and to the
partout au pays
organizations
qui ont
across
œuvré
the country
pour
who have worked to
concrétiser
make
ce
this
moment,
moment a
vous nous faites
reality.
avancer
You are putting
sur une
us
voie meilleure.
on a better path.
Et à tous les
And
Italo-Canadiens
to all the
qui
Italian
enrichissent nos
Canadians who enrich our
communautés de
communities
Saint-Jean
from
jusqu'à
St. John's to
Vancouver, de
Vancouver,
Montréal jusqu'au
from
Grand
Montreal
Nord,
to the far north,
vous nous rappelez
you remind
que la
us
diversité
that diversity
fera
will
toujours
always
notre
be
force.
our strength.
Le courage,
Courage,
la résilience
resilience,
et une conviction
and an
inébranlable
unshakable
qu'on est
conviction
plus fort
that we are
ensemble.
stronger together.
Voilà quelques-unes des
Those are
valeurs
just a
que les
few of the
Italo-Canadiens
values
ont toujours
that Italian Canadians
incarnées.
have always embodied.
Mr. Speaker, when almost 80 years ago, Giuseppe came back to his family from the POW camp, he worked hard to build a better life. He bought a house, saw his kids grow up, and taught them to be good, upstanding citizens who loved their country. Courage, resilience, and an unshakable belief that we are stronger together. That was the path he chose, and that is the path we must continue to choose today. La via giusta è stata dimostrata dagli internati e le loro famiglie: integrità, unità, fede e fidelità al Canada. Per questo tutto il Paese è riconoscente. Grazie di cuore. Internees and their families showed the way. Integrity, solidarity, faith, and loyalty to Canada. For this, our country is ever grateful. Thank you. Merci. Grazie.